Well, hello, Larry Goldberg. Today was Inauguration Day. And of course, all that pomp and circumstances and swearing-ins and everything else, it can kind of give one goosebumps.
You know what struck me about the day, it was actually, they were very packed into that rotunda,
Yeah.
very, very packed in.
It's,
In a way, it was kind of better than the open air. Um, I just felt it was better than the open air ceremony. That open air ceremony, they kind of get lost in it, but here they were packed together. Anyway, I thought it was very good. I, I was comparing his speech, Trump's speech
uh-huh.
today with his original speech
Oh, okay.
and his demeanor.
Yes.
And there's no doubt he's matured significantly. I mean, apart from the fact that he ran a much, much more disciplined campaign
Right.
than 2020. And the fact, and of course, a lot more than 2016.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and he was, he of course painted this extremely broad picture of American exceptionalism,
Right. Right.
which is par for the course with him. And he spoke a few tough words to particularly, if you happen to be a small state with a canal that America uses a great deal, I would be a little concerned. Um,
Yes.
but he's a president that wants peace. He's a president that wants to grow the economy above all. Um, and and I think that, he's come to the presidency with his powers matured,
Hmm. Hmm.
significantly matured.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping it's going to go well, and he's definitely got a very aggressive cost-saving program with Doge. He's got a very aggressive tax relief program in terms of extending, permanently the tax reductions. And I do think that he hasn't spoken about it, but I do hope he's going to re-equip our armed forces
Hmm.
because they're in desperate need of equipment. I mean, there's a very narrow window left for Taiwan, very narrow window, and I'm not sure I'm not sure there's still a window because, Taiwan lies just just off the coast of China and that thousands of miles from either of our coasts.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the Chinese Navy, the Chinese Air Force, all the Chinese forces are in a incredible upward, trajectory in terms of growth of power, of reach, and of numbers.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I imagine Xi, I hope Xi is gambling that, he can wait 4 years rather than incur the wrath of Trump.
Yeah, I would
I
think.
was
I
I
would.
was secretly worried he may do something in the dying days
Yeah.
of Biden's administration, but fortunately he didn't.
I don't pretend to be an expert on war or on Taiwan, China, but I think my theory on this. I believe that they have been pretty ready to defend the against the Air Force, the China Air Force. I think that their armaments that they have squirreled away in their mountains are probably pretty awesome. But I don't think they were quite as prepared to deal with the Armada, it's even been talked about the last week or so about China building up their sea strength and potentially trying for some kind of like a D-Day approach. But I'm hoping I'm hoping they have both ocean-going, airborne drones in numbers that will be a shock and awe problem if the Chinese do make any kind of an attempt, because we know that the drones today are certainly capable if you have enough of them.
Yeah, well, that's wishes and dreams, I think.
Okay, all right. So, did you see anything in the speech, anything in the day, anything in the overall demeanor that you think would impact the markets tomorrow? People have been very optimistic, feeling that tomorrow the markets would definitely be up in kind of a continuing show of enthusiasm. Do you think any of that changed today at all in what you saw?
Well, I do notice that Bitcoin, which is the only market indicator that we have, dropped precipitously on the event.
Oh, I didn't know.
It's down, a good 6%, so maybe 8% from the peak that it reached last evening or the evening before.
Right.
So I suspect that there's going to be a dip in the market on the news, sell on the news. That's my guesstimate.
Okay, so we're back at 102 and a half. We had gone as high as 109 and a half. Okay. All right.
It's a
And
7% drop.
10% from the top, from the peak. Okay. All right. Interesting. I knew it was down last night. It was down from the top down to around 107, but I hadn't seen the additional 3% today.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so that's classic sell on the news.
Mhm.
Classic sell on the news.
Mhm.
I don't see any other piece of news that would impact Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. Other than just the normal kinds of vagaries on a day-to-day basis for Bitcoin, which is pretty wild. Okay, and then so Tesla owners, of course, are most concerned. Their only real concern for most of them is that the ZEV credits might go away, and that or the IRA 7500 might go away. Do you think? Do you have any feelings as of the first day concluding that that has more likely, less likely, or any change at all?
So it's interesting. I don't know much about which laws were used to propagate either the ZEV credits. I do know the IRA was propagated. I suspect that the IRA is going to be hard to overturn I don't think can be overturned by executive order. I think it needs legislation. I just don't think that this Congress will be able to get to that legislation before the midterms. So I think we're going to
Wow.
be in a new Congress after the midterms. I suspect that nothing is going to happen in the short term, but the market is going to anticipate that it is going to happen. So that's not bullish for Tesla stock.
Okay. Yeah, the ZEV credits, I don't know the federal ZEV credits, I assume that's also legislative. Most of the ZEV credits that we get are not even federal. They're California, I think 11 states besides California, and then a bunch from Europe. So even if the federal ones went away, it wouldn't be a big deal. But obviously, the $7,500 credit would have an impact of some kind. We're not 100% sure exactly, but the law of supply and demand would tell us that it would have an
Right.
impact. Yes.
Right.
So one of the big pieces of news today was that Vivek has moved on. He got a better offer from some folks in the state of Ohio that think he'd make a great governor. Any impact to Doge? Any impact to the markets? Any impact
It
to?
will have an impact on Doge because I think Vivek was kind of going to be the go-to guy, the implementer, so to speak. So I'm hoping that Elon will find a replacement for him. I think it's exciting that Vivek will be governor. I think he would be an ideal vice presidential candidate for the 2030 election. So
2028, yeah. We just did 2024, so 2028.
Oh, 2028. I'm sorry, 2028. For the presidential, vice presidential nomination for the 2020, because I think he would be ideally suited. But hopefully, we'd over this nonsense about you have to have a woman, and blah blah blah, and hopefully this election kind of sealed that deal. But I can't guarantee it. So we'll see. I mean, he is a fantastic speaker. He would make, I think, an incredible governor. And so it'll be interesting to see how what the trajectory is there.
So Larry, I love to do polls on X, and so I thought I'd do a few polls today. And this is the people who answer my polls are very, very likely. We know for sure, of course, that they're heavily into Tesla, but also I'm pretty sure trend very, very much to the right. So taking that into consideration, I first asked, how did you rate the inaugural speech? 62% said epic. 21% solid and businesslike. 11% said okay. And only 6% said not for me. So would you, with 62% saying epic, did you think it was epic?
I didn't think it was epic because I look for inspiring. I look for inspiring cadences. That's not how Trump works. He's very businesslike, and as a businesslike speech, I thought it was pretty good. To me, it's a little bit too aggressive, too confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
But it was effective. It was effective, I think. And by the way, it was all expected. Everything he said was, was the sort of culmination of his race, of his campaign.
Yes.
So everything he said was aligned with what I thought he would say.
Mm-hmm.
He delivered it in the Trumpian fashion. Not for me, but a lot of people liked it a lot. I thought that at times it descended too much into confrontation and aggressiveness. I think great inaugural speeches are those that elevate. This had its moments, but it wasn't, it didn't follow a cadence and rise to that very high level and then, come to a complete end. So not conventional, not, to my taste, but I think that the crowd loved it. I think that his supporters loved it.
So then I thought probably the number one thing on Trump's agenda, and the one that the country seemed to be saying was high on their agenda, was immigration.
No question about that.
So I'm in California, so I'm very familiar with the immigration issue. My children are 25% Spanish. So I just thought, okay, let me ask the question this way. So if we have an illegal immigrant who's been in the US for 3 years, has a job and no criminal complaints while they've been here, do you have strong feelings about the type of person staying or going? Again, probably all Republicans are very much skewed Republican. 26% said strongly they should go home. 25% said moderately they should go home. 26% said moderately they should stay. And 23% said strongly they should stay. I mean, this
Well,
was,
that's 59% to stay.
no, 50-50, 40, oh, well, 51-49, 51-49, 26, 25,
23 and 26.
26 and 25 were
Oh,
go home, and 26 and 23 were stay. So it's like split right down the middle.
yeah. Yeah, I have a great deal of sympathy for immigrants.
Yeah, well,
I
okay,
obviously have a lot more sympathy for immigrants that came the hard way.
right.
That is, through the paperwork. It took us like 10 years to get our citizenship. But on the other hand, I know many not Mexican, sorry, South American families, including Mexican families, but many South American families from all over Nicaragua, Cuba, well, countries that are devastated by bad governance, and Nicaragua just, is right up there. And I have a huge amount of sympathy for them, particularly those that went through great hardships to get here and have worked very hard to, create their family and support their family. I loved President George Bush's solution. I loved it. I thought it was the ideal solution. And I would hope that Trump could come up with a very similar solution. But, he's obviously not inclined that way. I just think it's a great tragedy that the Democrats would have stumbled into the policies that they stumbled into almost thoughtlessly. I mean, it just rankles, and so that's forced the whole conversation,
Right.
and it's really upturned what could have been a really good solution. And the country rebelled very strongly against George Bush in his attempt to resolve the situation, which is a great tragedy, because had they done it then, I think we would be in a very different position right now. Look, there's absolutely no doubt that our Spanish-speaking brethren that have come and settled in the United States have been an enormous gift to this country, an enormous gift. It's very hard to even evaluate how big the gift is. But we can't have what we had in the last 3-4 years. I mean, we just can't have it. It would be disastrous.
Yes.
It would undermine our social services, would undermine our, it would, what, I'm talking off mic all the time. So it would be so valuable to come to some kind of real deal where we sorted, those people who came and who have got, legal jeopardy in terms of their activities back home and or in the United States, and then found a path for, these illegals who have created and made a life. And that would be my wish.
Of course,
I'm back to George Bush's policies.
with, of course, a great wall, a great method.
Yeah, if you don't stop this immigration, there's no sensible solution there's no sensible solution available. You have to stop this open border. You have to. And, if it takes 1,000-mile wall, build 1,000-mile wall. You can do this far, far better with, sensors and so on and so on and so forth. But if it takes a wall and sensors, fine.
Right.
But we have to stop it because, the governance in these countries, in these Central American countries and South American countries is so bad, that everybody just wants to come here.
Right.
And I don't blame them. I can't blame them. But if you create the wall, then they have to turn back and look into themselves as to how to solve their own problem. Look, Argentina's doing a fantastic job. And there's absolutely no reason that every country in South America couldn't do such a job. Every country in South America, every country bar none, have got enormous resources and great human, creative and capable people. but their leaders let them down again and again and again. I mean, Venezuela was a middle-class country, a country of largely middle-class people.
Right.
It sunk into the depths of despair
Yes.
just through bad leadership and the socialist mumbo-jumbo stuff.
So then one of the other big questions, and the one that probably the press, at least the financial press, spends the most time on, is tariffs. So the way I did this question was based on what you've heard, read, and your understanding of the tariffs that Trump is thinking of imposing, what are your feelings? Number one, I said, are you worried about the inflation? And only 9% were worried about inflation. I was surprised by that. Number two, do you trust Trump? 45% took that one. Great idea. 32% took that one. And then my last one I put was, it's too nuanced for me, because I think that most people before 3 months ago probably hadn't thought about tariffs ever in their life. But anyway, that was only 14%. So I thought that was interesting that 77% either thought it was a fine idea or they trust Trump to do it right.
Yeah, tariffs are an interesting subject. I mean, any economist will tell you just how bad tariffs are.
Yeah, right.
But Trump understands tariffs so well. I mean, he uses them as a weapon and as a negotiating tool, and he's done extremely well with them. Do you remember the tariffs of 2016, 2017?
Yeah, absolutely
I
remember.
mean, they worked.
Yeah.
And
And
spurred
Biden added to them.
Yeah. Biden, before Trump created this entire Stop China,
Mhm.
which was, a principal issue of his 2016 campaign, everybody said, this is disastrous. How can you do this? China's, part of the da 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 da. I have the book on my shelf here. The Earth is flat.
Right. Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
everybody was saying, no tariffs, open border, WTO.
Yeah.
But WTO turned out to be a disaster because China didn't follow the rules. They ended WTO, got open borders for their goods all over the world, and then promptly tore up their obligations under the WTO and went to town on us.
Yeah.
And Trump called it.
Yeah.
Everybody said it was a disaster, but he called it, and it was absolutely the right thing to do.
And Brian Wang the other day, our futurist in this community, Brian says he sees this as really being right now, this new administration, as having created a new reset. I called it on the show the new world order. My wife said, forget that, throw that out. We should call it the golden age. And that's what Trump called it today. So the golden age,
right.
the golden age would be a time when we no longer are propping up these countries because we feel sorry for them or because we feel like they need our help. But we say, look, you're on your own now. Take care of your own problems. That doesn't mean you never, ever help, but it just means let's all deal with each other as equals. And everybody.
No, I disagree with that. I don't believe in foreign aid because I believe that the worst thing you can do is give people foreign aid. I believe that what we should do is give them the ability to establish a free market in their country and give them the examples of Singapore or Argentina and give them advice
Or Poland.
and give them friendship and tell them if they adopt these, then we will open our markets to them and they will open their markets to us. And the capital will come from the capital markets.
Of course it will.
We have the deepest capital markets, the broadest and deepest capital markets in the world.
Right.
We are there to be able to, bring huge amounts of capital to countries that are stable and have shown the ability to actually keep a disciplined budget, and then we will come. And that is That to me is the way to support these countries.
And that is capitalism just working. That doesn't require government intervention of any kind because the capital will come.
But it
That's
does require diplomacy. It does require
yes.
outreach. It does require positive action
Right.
by the country. And you know, if they don't want to, fine. You want to be Venezuela, you want to starve yourselves to death, that's your business. We're offering you an alternative way forward.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing, Larry. Maybe we just said it in a completely different way. It's like you guys look out for your own interests. We'll look out for our interests. We will give you an example. We'll show you the example, but it's up to you to stand up on your own 2 feet and do what you're going to do.
Right, right. But I think it's important for us to engage.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, you're always going to engage, of course. So the last, oops, I think I've just lost the whole thing here. Am I going to have to start over? That's not going to be good. Let's see here. I had one more question on my list. Larry, I wanted to get to the last one. And now I have lost my way and I can't find it back. And this is not good. This is not good YouTubing. Is you have to be better at things than this, Larry. Here we go. All right, my last question was, and this is a big one. I'm going to be very interested to hear your opinion on this one. What is your opinion on Trump coin? My first choice was bad optics. 23% chose that. My second choice was a nothing burger. 39% chose that. Seemed unethical. 21% chose that. Don't like it at all. 17% chose that. So basically 39% thought it just didn't matter, but 61% one way or the other didn't like it. How do you come out?
I didn't like it either. You can add me to the didn't like it column. I don't like any of these coin things. Listen, I'm not a great Bitcoin fan either.
Right.
You know, I own a tiny bit of Bitcoin in my portfolio. And Bitcoin made my nephew very wealthy,
Yes.
very, very wealthy, almost by accident. But all I can say to it is that it's a pity. It shouldn't have happened. And the Melania coin definitely shouldn't have happened. But my gosh, he's made an apparent killing out of it. But it could disappear tomorrow and will probably disappear tomorrow.
Well, probably. Yeah. So overall, you think it was a very bad idea.
Terrible.
Terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
All right. Well, I was very interested to hear your thoughts because you're actually the first person that has any qualifications to answer it that I've had a chance to ask, other than the poll, of course.
Well, people will argue I'm not qualified because, you know, I'm not a great supporter of Bitcoin either. I definitely understand the concept of a currency independent of a country
Right.
or a state.
Right.
I get the concept, and I'm not entirely sure that I'm aligned, as everybody else is, with the utility of that. It would change the world quite dramatically, and I'm not sure whether it would be good or bad.
Bad.
Yeah.
And the other thing about the Trump coin, in a way, and I saw multiple people commenting this way on X, in a way, it kind of besmirched the whole idea.
Yeah, cheapens it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cheapened the whole idea. Yeah, because now somebody said, I think it was Warren Redlick said that he was working on a Warren coin.
Warren coin. Yeah, I love that from Warren. Look, if he had struck a gold coin,
Yeah, right.
pure gold coin, and struck that and sold it for a small profit, fine. But this direction doesn't appeal to me because on paper he's now worth, you know, $5.9 billion or whatever it is. It's going to go away.
Yeah,
unless he sells it all. If he sells it all, then everybody he sells it to is going to lose that money. And how is that going to enhance his, you know, likability?
Yeah. I think it's got a 3-year lockup. So to say nothing of the fact that it's in trust. So, but anyway, it was certainly one more thing to add confusion to the weekend.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. They didn't need it.
Right. Well, now later today, we're going to get all kinds of, if we haven't already, we're supposed to get a whole bunch, like 200 executive orders signed. The first one on the list, I think, was the one that says that men are men, women are women, and there's no other choices. Did you think that was a good place to start?
Absolutely the best place to start. I mean, I think that that was probably the most overreach of the overreaches of this woke movement to redefine redefine sex of a human being. It's crazy.
So,
Now look, there are people born with multiple genital organs and dual genital organs. These people are definitely not of one or the other sex. I mean, so how do you deal with that? And it should be dealt with. But other than those people, I just find it very, 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 very difficult to swallow.
yeah. Well, Larry, I know you've got to go pick up your truck, pick up your Cybertruck, and I think there's going to be a little later this morning, there's going to be some pre-market information that we'll be able to tag into. So I'm going to put this on pause and finish it up later. As always, I appreciate you coming on, and I think this will be a memorable day for you, for me, and for of the vast majority of the American, well, of the world, actually, because the Asian markets and European markets actually did well last night.
Yeah. It's an important day in history. There's no doubt about it.
Thanks as always, Larry. So I wanted to come back and talk to you just to give you the numbers in terms of the pre-market. But while I was looking around, I mean, so much is happening. Oh my goodness, Marco Rubio has been confirmed. Some of the January 6th individuals have already been released from jail. I can't even remember all the things that have already happened. Trump has already signed, I forget, somewhere close to 100 executive orders. It's just the rapidity with which the change is happening is just stunning. Then, as I was preparing and getting ready, I ran into this quote today from Drukenmiller. He says, this is, of course, as you know, one of Larry's biggest, he's one of his favorites. And Drukenmiller says this, I've been doing this for 49 years, and we're probably going from the most anti-business administration to the opposite. We do a lot of talking to CEOs and companies on the ground, and I'd say CEOs are somewhere between relieved and giddy. So we are a believer in animal spirits. Oh my goodness. I think I've been saying it for a while, we're in for something really special in the next 4 years. Now, one of the things that, of course, was talked about was energy. If you've watched this channel for very long, you know that I'm a great believer in using the bully pulpit to force down the price. And Trump is a genius at this by putting stuff out. And he says, look, I'm going to drill, baby, drill. Oil prices as of now in the pre-market already down $1.03, back to 76.85. They were over $80 only 4 trading sessions ago. Natural gas down 3.75% at $3.80. Brent unchanged. I think it's not trading yet so it hasn't come down yet. And then so you see the evidence right there of the bully pulpit. But now listen to this. Okay, what have I been talking about for a long time? What has to come down? What is it that Trump has got to do? He's got to prove to the market that he's going to really make these promises come true. Well, the promises are coming true on day one, as he said they would. So we've got the 10-year bonds down 5.7 basis points at $4.55.4 and 0.4%. I'm sorry. So 4.55, let's just call it that. We were at 4.8 I think a week ago, 4.8 a week ago. Now we're at 4.55. That is 2.5 basis points lower than we were just a week ago. This is all because of the direction that this administration is going to take us. What else can we talk you to? Oh, let's see, just for fun, we'll take a look real quick at the 2-year is down 4.7 basis points, and the 1 month is actually up 1 basis point at 4.323. Just to give you the full picture. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look. We had, by the way, Asia and Europe markets both up. As I had mentioned earlier this morning, we have also got gold is down a little bit, 1440, holding out pretty well though at 2734. Silver up a little at 64%, 0.64%. I'm so excited I can hardly talk. $31.34. Copper down 0.89 at 4.329. The dollar is steady. We have the stock futures. Now listen to this. This is what is pretty well, I would say, unless something really crazy happens overnight, everybody kind of knows what's going to get signed into law or signed in these executive orders, pretty well knows what's going to happen between now and tomorrow morning. So I think we could be pretty confident that the numbers are going to look something like this tomorrow morning. We've got the Dow up 252 or 0.58%, S&P up 33 or 0.56. By the way, that's very interesting. That's about what the international markets were up overnight. And then the NASDAQ futures are up 0.64, 138.75 points. We have got the Bitcoin down 4,198, as Larry had mentioned. It's gone down a bit more at 101,873. No idea why it is not joining the party other than possibly profit taking, and maybe taking some of those profits, throwing them into equities or even into bonds. When you see that kind of action in bonds, there's money to be made. All right, so that is what we have going into the rest of the evening for you. Brian White will be along in just a couple of hours, 7:45 California time. Brian will be talking about. We'll be talking a lot about Juniper. We'll be talking about Optimus. We'll be talking about. Yeah, we'll be talking about a lot of things. Kind of going through the product line, what's new. And you know, Brian has always got stuff that pretty much you're not going to find anywhere else because he's got his sources. So be back at 7:45 to check that out. And then tomorrow morning, back to regular programming. And we'll see you then at 7:45 roughly tomorrow morning for After the Bell. Oh, by the way, checking back from yesterday, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to put all 3 of yesterday's shows up. Yeah, you should go back and look at this morning's if you want to. But yesterday's, those were more what you might call, they weren't as news oriented, and so they have more, they're what we call in the trade evergreen. So you might want to go back and check those out. I'm going to put all 3 of them up again because they were all 3 quite substantial. A lot of information about nukes, about the future of energy. We just talked about this is one of the things, by the way, if you don't go back and look at that video, one of the things that's going to happen with the Trump administration, this is just really such hot news over the last 4 weeks. We're going back to nukes. The Eisenhower plan, not the Eisenhower, I'm sorry, the Nixon plan of building 1,000 nukes should have been done. It's a shame that it wasn't done. Now I think we're going to see nukes as a major piece of this energy plan going forward. So check out the 3 videos. I'll put them all up again, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. It's been great talking to you.